And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do something that we almost never do. We want to welcome in a very special guest to the program. John's friend, and hopefully mine now too, Mr. David Otunga joins the show. Mr. Otunga, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me on here. What's up, John?
David, how you doing? I'm so mad. We're friends on Facebook and Instagram, and David is like aging backwards. I hate him, man. He looks better and better every single day, and I look worse and worse. As I used to say with Ron, I gotta work out to look this bad. And David looks like a freaking like he walked off a statue, so like a pedestal somewhere in Greece.
Thank you for that.
Well, we appreciate you jumping on with us. We wanted to have some expert legal advice here today because over the weekend, some news broke that I think got everybody's attention. Raja Jackson, the son of the UFC legend Rampage Jackson, was arrested on Thursday, and this is for an event that happened last month. We all know the story there, but I guess TMZ is reporting that the 25-year-old was taken into custody and he was booked on a felony charge. What do you make of this? What can you tell us about the status now? And were you surprised that this happened?
Well, I wasn't surprised that this happened. I just was surprised that it took so long. It took some 26 days for Raja to be arrested. A lot of people were speculating on why that was, myself included. I feel like the police had a hard time figuring out what exactly happened here. Was this a work? Was this a shoot? And even then, those definitions, wrestling terms, and a receipt, they kind of had to learn all this. And the thing of it is, if you watch the video and you saw what happened, you know there was a crime there. And so I think it was more them trying to figure out what the exact crime was. And the details have been limited on this, but TMZ is reporting that he was charged with a felony battery because battery in California, where this took place, can either be a misdemeanor or a felony. It's called a wobbler. It depends on what the charge is. But in this case, it was serious enough there where he was charged with a felony with serious bodily injury, which I do believe is the correct charge. A lot of people had been speculating that it, could be attempted murder. And if you're not a lawyer and you see this, yeah, you might think that. However, attempted murder is a lot more difficult to prove than people think. And when I saw this, as awful as it was, I just didn't see the elements there for attempted murder. But definitely battery with serious bodily injury, that's a slam dunk for prosecutors, in my opinion.
We don't know exactly what's going to happen next. I think there's a report that he's already bonded out for $50,000 bail. It happened at some point the first night he was there. So he is out, and I'm sure that we're going to get, some details in the coming weeks or days. But is this something that you think could wind up going to a trial, or do you think this becomes a plea deal, or what do you expect might be the outcome in this situation?
It's really hard to say because it's so public. And in fact, what's interesting to me, especially as a lawyer, is the fact that this entire incident was live streamed. And so you have the defendant essentially testifying throughout this entire ordeal. But then there's the whole element where it is live streamed, and is he kind of in gimmick, or does he have kind of a character on his live stream? And so can you attribute his statements to his actual mental state, or was he performing in some way, which just makes this extremely interesting. But I would think this probably does go to a trial because, there's so much that could be argued on both sides. Where was this a work? Where was this a shoot? How much did Raja know? Because there's a lot of fault here on the promotion itself. And you can see from the video, they didn't really smarten Raja up to this, too well. And they didn't really explain what the spot is. And they never really explained to him what a receipt was. So you're telling a trained MMA fighter that he gets to get his lick back for real, and you can really lay it in. So how is he supposed to interpret this? Now, that being said, clearly he went way beyond the scope of that. Yeah, as you can see here, he went way beyond this. Once Psycho Stu was knocked out, Raja should have known you don't punch somebody who's knocked out. I thought that was just a universal rule, but apparently not. However, That being said, this would be an amazing trial. I think it's in Raja's best interest to try and get a plea deal, because this stream and this video, this is damning evidence. I mean, some of this, there was a point in there, I called it the smoking gun, where he really self-incriminates, and he says that he knows this is a work, he knows this is show, but he's going to go in there and F him up for real. And that's exactly what he did. So I think that is going to be a slam dunk for prosecutors. I think it would be in Raja's best interest to try and take a plea deal. And especially as far as I know, I don't believe he has a record. So he could possibly even avoid jail time and, get off with felony probation or something.
David, is the felony, is it probatable? And another thing, if he gets a plea deal, do you think it can be dropped to a misdemeanor? Do you think that's the option? Because the felony, is that something that is a non-probatable offense?
No, he could get probation with the felony. And in this case, I don't think it's likely that they would drop this down to a misdemeanor. I just don't, especially because it was so public. The public pressure for him to be arrested, and the video is so graphic. The injuries sustained by Psycho Stu, because here's the other thing is, again, the details have been limited, but Raja is presently charged with a felony battery with serious bodily injury. And the maximum penalty on that is 4 years in state prison and I think a $10,000 fine. Now, there's something in California called great bodily injury that can be added on to a battery, and that is another 3 years. So they haven't announced that that's been added, but that's something I wouldn't be surprised to see added. So possibly with a plea bargain, he might be able to avoid that, but I don't see any way that he's not getting a felony for this.
Won't this be something where almost the whole business is being put on trial? I mean, because they'll use examples in the past. What happens when a match gets out of hand? What happens when a match is no longer a work? What happens when a match gets a little bit stiff and somebody receipts back? I mean, just you're talking about the trial being incredibly interesting. I mean, this could be absolutely. I mean, I know we have human beings lives at stake here. This could be incredibly interesting. What's going on? The banter between the lawyers, right?
Oh yeah, extremely. And for the whole thing is, where does a work stop? And right. Who is involved and what is the scope of that? I find that extremely interesting because, John, as you know, like when you're in the ring with another person, you're consenting. I'm letting another person punch me in the face. You know what I mean? I'm working with this guy. And so I'm trusting my body with my partner. They're not my opponent. They're my partner. Now, at what point does that scope end? So say I'm allowing somebody to punch me and it's a little stiffer than I wanted. Now, what if they really just start hauling off and attacking me? Is that, which it clearly would be far outside of the scope, but then now where's the line there? And, this kind of case could, impact that because it's not clearly defined. It depends on the promotion. It depends on the individuals, what somebody's comfortable with. There's so many questions here, but to me, this is fascinating.
Yeah, and the nuance is going to be unbelievable because you talk about you've been around the business long enough, like I have, David, and we joke about receipts. We joke about I catch a guy with a pretty good punch. Oh, I'm gonna get that one back, and sure enough, you do. So we're sitting here. We got so much nuance going on here. I mean, it's gonna be unbelievable for these lawyers to have and judge and potentially a jury to have to decipher wrestling talk and wrestling actions with all of this. What do you think ends up happening with this trial?
And that's such a great point. And I just want to add to that it's so difficult. I was watching this coverage when it came out, and you have lawyers and different legal personalities weighing in. But to me, I'm kind of laughing because they don't understand what even the term selling is. So they're totally misinterpreting this. And then what's a work? They totally don't understand that. But then hearing from the wrestlers weighing in, they have no idea the legal consequences and nuances here. And so finally, there's something where my two worlds intersect, where I'm the perfect person to talk about this because I understand both sides of this. And ultimately, this was just a mess. This was a tragic fiasco all the way around. And if you ask me what I think is going to happen, honestly, I don't know, because a trial would be amazing. And I could see it happening, but I probably think a plea deal is better for Raja. I mean, again, if he really thinks he didn't do anything wrong, if he has the right defense team, he could very well argue his way out of this. He really could, or at least, to a lesser charge. But I think the safe way is a plea bargain, because he might be able to negotiate it down to just probation and avoid jail time altogether. You never know.
Yeah, and David, you say you're the perfect guy to discuss this. I've got a Mayan calendar here behind me that's a replica, and a terracotta war soldier behind me as well. You've got a Harvard banner and a wrestling belt. So you beat me at that too. And I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy that your background is that much better than mine.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm in my virtual office, but yeah, that's my Harvard Law degree back there.
I know what it is. Good grief. That's awesome. Good for you. I love it. You're like the real legitimate lawyer that, we always had, like Clarence Mason and these guys. And then all of a sudden we get David Otunga and go, he's a Harvard trained lawyer. I go, yeah, sure he is. No, he really is.
What's funny is still to this day in my comments, people are like, wait, you're really a lawyer? I thought that was just a gimmick. Or then there's people in the comments like, whoa, congratulations, David Otunga. After WWE, you went and became a lawyer. No, I was a lawyer the entire time. That's right. I'm a shoot lawyer.
What a phrase, a shoot lawyer. Hey, I do want to ask one more question, at least from your perspective, David. If this attack from Raja onto Stu would have happened immediately after the beer can blow, because I think we all agreed that was a worked shot with an empty beer can. He wasn't trying to inflict any damage. You even heard Stu say something like, "Are you not going to sell it?" or something along those lines. If Raja would have immediately fired back a live round in that moment, does that change this? Does he still wind up getting arrested, or is it a totally different tone and tenor if it happens like that?
No, this is a great question. That completely changes this. Totally different tone and tenor. If Raja had immediately fired back, he would be warranted. He would be well within his right, and this would be a clear case of self-defense. Because again, up until this point, if you cut it off there and you ignore everything that happened after this, Raja just showed up at a wrestling event to see his friend who was wrestling that night. He is a streamer. He's backstage. A wrestler who he doesn't know just comes up to him and smashes him on the head with a beer can. But now it's a work. So again, to somebody who's not a worker, this would be extremely confusing. Like, wait, this guy just hit me in the head, but it didn't hurt. And what is he doing? And then what's going on? Does he want to fight me? Should I fight him? Because again, Raja is not a worker. So this was real life to him. You got to look at that. So Raja had every right to fire back on this guy right there, and it would have been Psycho Stu's fault. Now, where things go left is the fact that it was explained to him, and they apologized. They shook hands and said, hey, you can run into his match, and we'll make this into something. We'll make a spot out of this. You get to get your receipt. And, if you actually go through that video, nowhere do we ever hear them tell Raja to throw working punches or whatever he's supposed to do. There's one point in the video where a guy is whispering to Raja, presumably giving him his spot. And I don't know what they told him, but I'm pretty certain they did not tell him to go in there and throw live punches 23 times after Stu was unconscious. I'm pretty sure they didn't say that. So I don't think it's in dispute that Raja went way, way, way too far and is responsible for his actions. But again, if he had just hauled off and punched Psycho Stu right after the beer can incident, it would have been easily self-defense.
David, what do you think happens if you're trying to handicap this as what's going to end up happening from the judge or jury if this thing does go to a jury trial? What do you think is the final outcome of this? Your most likely outcome?
It's really hard to say, honestly, because it's going to come down to the arguments. I mean, which lawyer understands wrestling terms better? Because you could make a strong argument that, They didn't explain this to Raja, and he was under the impression he was allowed to do so. They told him to really punch the guy. Raja's an MMA fighter. In his mind, MMA fighters are told to throw punches until the referee pulls him off. Raja does say something about that in here. Like, there's all these different things you could build. But then again, on the flip side, the prosecution could really just hammer in. It doesn't matter. He knows that this was supposed to be fake or a work, and he went way beyond that and how much he incriminated himself. So it's really hard to say. But again, if I really had to bet, I would say it's going to be a plea bargain. And I don't think he's avoiding a felony. He might be able to avoid jail time or get 1 year, maybe 1 year in county and probation.
And David, this seems like so crazy. You and I have been in business a long time, and we haven't seen anything like this in our entire lifetime. Is something like this? People say, "Well, this is going to open up the door, Pandora's box." I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's going to all of a sudden you're going to have people, "Oh, that guy was working too stiff or something." Where I'm going to file charges on him. I don't think that it opens up Pandora's box. Do you? I think this is such an extreme thing that is such an outlier from everything that's gone on, because we haven't seen this before. We probably aren't going to see this again, are we?
Right. And I totally agree with you. This is such an outlier, such a unique case, and we've never seen anything like it before, and we probably will not ever again. This is so unique. So this is somebody who is a civilian, basically, who is brought into the ring to do a spot. Now, that doesn't usually happen. And John, I know but in WWE, if they have a civilian or somebody who's a non-worker that is going to come in for a spot, they rehearse this ad nauseum. Even if this is not a civilian, just the regular performers, WWE superstars, we rehearse a ton. If another WWE superstar is going to come and make a run-in in the match, we rehearse that. So that's why this is just such a unique situation, where it's like watching that stream. It's still wild to me, like how this ended up happening, because there were so many points throughout the night for over an hour that this could have been avoided. So many ways this could have been avoided, and it wasn't. It was like the perfect storm of things that had to go wrong in order for this to happen, and it did.
David, do you expect there to be any civil charges? I mean, we've talked about this strictly from a criminal perspective, but do you think Stu and his wife may actually wind up suing Raja civilly as well?
It's hard to say. I mean, we haven't heard anything from Stu, so we don't know, where his mind state is or how he's leaning. However, I mean, I do think that a civil suit would be very successful here. I mean, there's a lot of people who could be sued. Raja, the promotion. I mean, there's a lot of torts that I could think of, there are civil actions, negligence, intentional infliction of emotional distress. There's a lot. So yeah, again, I don't know what his mind state is. Maybe Stu just wants to put it behind him. Who knows? So it remains to be seen.
You mentioned a lot of people could be sued, and of course, that's a response to a civil question. Criminally, do you think anyone else could be charged? Does anyone else have any criminal liability, in your opinion?
I don't know all of the facts and the details and what exactly was explained to Raja and what wasn't, but just based off of the video stream that I watched and the evidence that's been made aware to me, I think it's just Raja. It's very clear that he acted on his own. It was premeditated. He went outside the scope. I know that AJ Mana caught a lot of backlash for this because he was Raja's friend and he told him, get your receipt, lay him in, tag him. But a lot of people were calling for AJ to be an accomplice. But that's wild to me, to think that AJ would know what Raja was going to do, and then he would have to help him do that in some way. And so the elements of an accomplice just aren't there. They really are not. And, if anything, I would think that if AJ knew about this and that's his friend, he would probably have gone out there and stopped it. So I think Raja is really the only one, clearly facing criminal charges here based on the evidence we know now.
Would there be any charges as far as negligence, by the organization itself? And I'm not saying that there is. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, but there's any chance there, if it was in a licensed state, and I don't know if Nevada is a licensed state or not, you might have a problem getting future license because of the incident. Is that a possibility?
Oh, that's definitely a possibility. And again, I don't know what actually was said or done by the organization. I've heard rumors Raja had been there before or was there the day before. I don't know what the conversations were like there. But again, based on the video, there's a number of places for negligence. I don't ever see Raja sign a contract or a waiver or anything like that. And just the fact that Raja didn't even know when his spot was, like, clearly just negligence, recklessness.
Right.
Well, we can't thank you enough for all the time today, man. You've been so gracious with all your time. How can fans who are listening to this keep up with what you're doing these days?
Well, they can go to my YouTube channel at DD Otunga, where I'm covering all things law and wrestling now. It's the beautiful intersection of my two worlds.
What a great gimmick. I mean, it really is. You really are. I mean, you're a fantastically smart guy. You're a good guy, but you also got the Harvard law degree, that you're a wrestler, and a very good one. So you've got a niche unto yourself, because I don't think anybody's going to take that job from you.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I'll be honest. This is the silver lining in all of this, because I made one video and it blew up. And I was like, that was kind of fun. I liked it. Like, I love this case just in that it's so fascinating to me, being a wrestler and a lawyer. And then I got so many great comments and just feedback and people asking about different cases. I was like, you know what? That's a great question. I think I'm going to answer that too. And you're right. This is the most specific niche, most perfectly suited to myself. I'm somebody who's somewhat of a jack of all trades, or an ace of all trades, I heard the other day. So this is a way for me to put all of that together in one place.
Well, David, man, it is so good to see you. When Conrad told you that you're coming on, I was so excited that you're coming on. So I always get a big smile on my face when I see you, because I love you so much. So it's great to see you.
Oh, thank you, John. Likewise. Always a pleasure.
Nice to meet you, David. We greatly appreciate it. Check him out on YouTube. We'll be sure to link it in the description for today's show as well. He's our new resident legal expert around these parts.
That's right.
Hey, I like that. And it's nice to meet you too, Conrad. I appreciate you guys having me on.
SaveWithConrad.com.
My name's Daryl, came from Massachusetts, and I moved to Wisconsin. And there's a lot of people that might be asking, why go with Conrad? Why go with Supreme Lending? And let me tell you something, brother. I think about the credentials, the tag team partner that I'd be working with. First of all, we got the podfather himself, Conrad. How can you go wrong with that? And then also go on to SaveWithEric.com, which, who else could have kicked Vince's ass for 83 consecutive weeks? You can't beat that duo right there. But they did bring a secret weapon, and I didn't realize this because this was not advertised. I worked closely with Larry the Axe Thompson. And let me tell you, with all the stress with moving across the country with a large family that I have, it was reassuring to know that I had the enforcer at my back, handling questions from the other side of sellers, the other side with trying to find the right prices. He took care of all that. All I had to do was keep my eye on the prize and make it there to Wisconsin. They were absolutely fantastic. They checked in on me, especially Francis, very patient with me. I don't go through this process all the time, so I trusted the experts. I was able to call them. They called me if they had questions, and it felt like it was a personal arrangement. There was even a point in which, from the seller side, they wanted something else that wasn't part of the norm. Francis straight up told me, hey, we're loyal to you. We'll do whatever you want to do, and we'll make sure that you guys are taken care of. They came through. I made it to the dream. I'm the champion of my own destiny here. They were able to help pave the way for me and my family. I couldn't be more happy with the results. I went from having less than an acre to now 20 acres worth of land. They made that dream a reality. I'm Daryl, and I'm living in Friendship, Wisconsin, in my dream home, thanks to SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com.